No, that was bad. That was bad. All right. All right, guys. This is a tutorial on the magazine project, guys. So what we're going to do here is create an Illustrator file, new. We're going to go 8.5 by 11. I'm going to make sure it's portrait because the magazine is in a portrait format. You don't see a lot of magazines in landscape unless you're in an architectural magazine. So make sure it's 8.5 by 11, portrait. Keep the parameters the same. If you're looking for these parameters, go to print, letter. It will change it to points. If you want to keep it in inches or centimeters, you can change it. And voila. So there's your blank sheet of paper. You're going to use this as your canvas to create a beautiful design to entice a target audience to buy your magazine. Okay. Let's say one of the first things you want to do, and you have your picture. Some of you guys already attacked the headers and subheaders and the title. That's great. I'm just going to start with bringing the photo in. So I'm using Bridge. I have my photograph in, and there's two ways I can do this. I can click and drag this into Illustrator. Okay. Now, it it's only big because the camera we used had a high megapixel ratio. In actual fact, it's bigger than 8.5 by 11. Now, technically, guys, when you get a photograph, it doesn't format perfectly in 8.5 by 11. When I hold Shift, so I'm going to hold Shift because I want to proportionally scale it. If I don't do Shift, I do this, right, guys? And that's not good. I'm going to press Escape, or Command Z, sorry. Hold Shift, and it keeps it in the same proportion. Now, if you guys hold Shift and the Alt Option button at the same time, so those two buttons, it keeps the same center point. So I'm going to shrink this down relatively to the size of my 8.5 by 11, and then zooming back in. I used a spacebar command and zoomed in. All right, so I'm going to crop this roughly to the dimensions of the 8.5 by 11. That black box is the size of the paper. Now, I'm going to bring it into the top section of the photograph. It's there. And I'm just going to bring it down a little bit lower. And okay. Now, if I wanted to, I can also use the alignment tool. Press Window, Align, and the alignment tool shows up. Now, when you guys get it, you get it shrunk. Click on this little box right here, and you get the Show Options. And this gives you the ability to go to the artboard. So this box, now that this picture, it's scaled down a bit, I'll go center and to the top of the page. So it's perfectly aligned. Okay. Now, you're probably wondering, sir, what's up with this bottom picture? Like I said, photographs don't scale up perfectly 8.5 by 11. So you're going to lose a bit of your image. You might decide to have it slightly bigger, and you might lose a little bit of the outside edge as well. Now, I'm going to go Layers. And what I'm going to do here is do a clip mask. Okay. I'm going to grab a rectangle box. Okay. It doesn't matter what color it is. Just click once on the screen. I'm going to make this 8.5. Whoa, 5.8. Whoa, dyslexia. What's going on? 8.5 by 11. What the hell? Uh, and watch this. I'm going to tell this thing to go dead center of my page. Now, what a clip mask does, guys, it gets that shape, and as long as it's above the object below, you can clip mask it. So check this out. I'm going to go to Object, Clip Mask, and say Make, or you can press Command 7. What that does, it hides everything else. Now, you can always go back to the clip mask and say Release it, and you'll get your contents back. You'll still get the original box right there, which is okay. So no matter what color it is or what outline, it'll just clip mask it. Okay. Another cool technique. I think Nate, I was showing you this. Actually, I'll clip mask on top of a clip mask. So I'm going to do Command 7. So I clip masked it. If I were to get some typeface and say Murder Magazine. That's a horrible name for a magazine. Let me change that. I just look at Austin's face. I just look. Mean, all right? Uh, and I decided to go with a nice bold typeface. All right? If I put the text over top of the image as well, you can clip mask with text. So check this out. I'll grab the picture. The text is over top of the image. That's important. Object, clip mask, or Command 7. And the text will be, I don't know if you guys see that? The picture's masked inside the text. right? Can you use this technique? It's up to you. Okay. Now, do you guys want me to go into great detail? Oh, by the way, mistake, Mr. Almeida. You should. So I press Command X. Command X cuts the graphic. I am technically going to go to a new layer. Actually, I'm going to create two more layers. Okay. I'm going to call this photo. And at the top here, I'm going to call this. Oh, sorry, right here, I'm going to call this text. And I'm going to press Command F. Command F is an interesting shortcut command. It pastes it, but it pastes it right in place, so where you want it. Okay. Cool. Now, obviously, that's not the best color. I wonder what color I should use. I wish I could take a color from the photograph. Well, check this out. If I grab the eyedropper tool right over here, and right now I have it's black. If I get the eyedropper tool and I zoom in on a color on the photograph, it will then pick that color. Okay. If you like using the same colors throughout your layout, click and drag that swatch into your swatch library, and it will have that same color. So if I'm doing other headers or subheaders in text, you can have a consistent color theme. A lot of you guys did an analysis of the PDF InDesign, and you'll notice a lot of you commented on the color scheme, black and white and yellows and grays, consistent. That's how they do it. They grab a color from the photograph, the lipstick, a color from the shirt. They grab that specific pixel and put it in their swatch library, and they use it within their layout. Okay. Now, a cool trick if you're trying to put emphasis on some text is a simple technique, guys. I'm going to grab this text box, and you know what? I'm going to convert it into a shape. So object expand, and it's no longer going to be a text. It's going to be a shape. I like using that now because it doesn't have that text box around it. It just confines really nicely. I'm going to hold Alt Option, and that gives me a duplicate. Now what I can do here is a nice little technique is grabbing the color behind it and just giving it a white. And this is kind of like a drop shadow, but it's just an offset text where you can just grab the text and just, if you want to use the cursor keys, just offset the text and give this kind of three-dimensional feel. And it gives a nice little outline around the object. Okay? So that's a cool little trick you can do in your magazine is just grabbing the same text, duplicating it, and giving it a different color. Okay? Another technique, I'll just move that out of the way. It's called the offset path. Now check this out. Like you could probably say, well, Sarah, why don't you just do a stroke around it? Yeah, strokes are cool, but what if, yeah, I can do a stroke and you can say, hey, show options. So right here, guys, if you click on this, show options, you get more features. You could say, I want this to the actual outside of the text. And there'll be a stroke thickness and maybe pick a color that is a bit more brighter. Okay. So an offset text can work, an outline can work as well. Just if you're doing so, just make sure you pick and choose inside, centered, or outside. And I think outside better because it gets more of a white text around it. Another means of doing this, I'm going to say no stroke. I'm going to go click the text, go object, path, and offset the path. What this does, when I press preview, this goes inside. I can go positive integers. And it goes around the text quite nicely. I'm going to press OK. I'm going to ungroup it. Oh, actually, it's already ungrouped. So technically, I have an inside text and I have an outside text. Okay. I'm going to ungroup it now. And the outside shapes, I'm going to just hold Shift and click on multiple objects. And I get my Pathfinder tool. And notice how it's overlapping. I'm going to weld them together so they're all one shape. Okay? And what I'm going to do here is get rid of the color and just have an outline stroke. Is that cool? So that's a nice way, kind of gives that varsity feel. It puts emphasis on text, and especially your title. It's not a bad technique to use to give emphasis. So I welded the text. If I didn't weld it, I would have a problem here. I would have the line going through the text. But because I welded it using the Pathfinder tool, and I know I went fast, that's why this video is here for you guys, so you can pause and play right at this moment when you're watching this video. And you can weld it and use that offset text. So there's some cool techniques you can use to enhance the typography in your layout. Again, Not a bad thing if you want to use a rectangular shape, reverse box I call it, and have some positive and negative shapes here. Here's a little cool trick. I'm going to do that same tracking and kerning technique. So I'm going to type in magazine. Right. Maybe size it up a little differently. Oops. And guys, I'm just using a basic default font. I obviously would have picked a better font. So I'm going to hold Alt, drag out the tracking kerning. Now, if you don't like the Alt option, clicking the cursor keys, you could actually go to the character, and technically the leading is actually indicated right here, the tracking. So if you wanted to, you can type in the number as well. Or oh, I can't do it that way, so I'll do it. So if you want to do numerically, you could numerically do it as well. Oh, that looks okay. Actually, I'll hold Alt Option, just go a few more. Okay. Check this out. I got the text. Make sure you convert it to shapes because it won't work any other way. So now my text is now a shape. I'm going to grab both the text and the white box below it. With my Pathfinder tool, I'll tell the computer to minus the front shape, which is technically the text. So what that does now, I don't know if you guys noticed, but it's actually cut through the text, the box. So you can actually see the photograph behind it. Not really noticeable, but if you see it there, you guys? So I got the text, trimmed the box so you can see through it. Okay, so that's a cool style that you might want to use in your magazine cover. Okay, I'm not going to bore you with creating headers and subheaders. That's just really your typing tool, playing your tracking, kerning, and leading, making things bold and bigger. Okay, I'll stop my video, and my second video will be on photoshopping.